things that you will need. A blanket, especially if you are very sensitive on your knees, it can come in handy. 2 blocks and a strap, preferably a longer strap, like a 10-foot strap. But if you're on the smaller side, I'm 5'3", then the 8-foot strap would probably do just fine for you. If you don't have another strap on hand, that's okay. I'll show you as well another option that you can do that will still work, all right? So go ahead and start on your back. As you lie all the way down, you can keep your feet planted about hips width distance apart, or you can heel toe your feet even wider and knock the knees in. Sometimes this is called constructive rest. I've also heard it being called Ardha Shavasana or half Shavasana. Whatever the name is, go ahead and find this position in your body. Hands rest on your belly. Close your eyes. Good, just bring your awareness to your breath. Noticing that expansion and that contraction as you breathe. So important to remember that as we're doing this work, the point is not to perfect what you're doing in the practice or your poses. It's simply to notice your relationship to how you breathe, how you think, how you move. So basically noticing your relationship to your habits and your patterns, and trying to develop healthy relationships. So understanding, learning, adapting, without the need to attach to what is right or what is wrong, what is better, what is worse. Not necessarily in a black or white or even gray area, just being open to how things are as they come and as they go. Take 3 more cycles of breath. Good. And then you can wiggle your fingers and your toes. You can stretch the arms overhead, finding a big sigh and a big yawn. And then hug your knees to your chest. Rock a little bit from side to side. Good. So downward facing dog is essentially a lot of different poses that we've probably seen, just flipped in different perspectives. It's essentially Navasana, or a boat pose, facing upright. It could also be standing, one-legged Tadasana, right? So I try to teach different perspectives so that it makes it a little easier to learn. So go ahead and lengthen your legs to the ceiling. We're gonna start with the legs. So arms can relax by your side, or you can keep your hands on your belly, but flex your toes towards your face. So already we're in a down dog position as far as the ankles are concerned and the hips. So from here, go ahead and bend your knees like you're squatting. So your knees are gonna come down towards the floor, and then press your legs back up. Again, bend the knees and lengthen. And keep working with that. So we're stimulating the hamstrings, we're stimulating the hip flexors. And you might think, well, shouldn't I stretch my hamstrings if I'm gonna come into down dog, especially if I want my heels to come to the floor? Yes, but there also needs to be a level of engagement too. So in yoga, we do a lot of stretching, right? Stretching our hamstrings, stretching our hip flexors, stretching our shoulders, which can feel really good and is a really great way to kind of calm the nervous system, open up the body in a very passive sense. But it's really good to strengthen as well, to stimulate and engage. All right, hug your knees to your chest, rock a little bit from side to side. Good. Go ahead and plant your feet to the ground and hands to the front of the pelvis. So just getting some movement into the pelvis, a sense where it is in space. Visualize your tailbone as a paintbrush, On your inhales, paint into the ground or paint behind you. So your butt's gonna press into the floor. You'll arch your lower back off the ground. It's like a cow pose. And then as you exhale, you'll curl your tailbone underneath you, and it's as if you're painting forward, rounding your lower back into the ground like cat pose. Couple more times through your cow and through your cat. Take 2 more. Last arch and round. Good. Go ahead and pause here, feet planted to the floor. Grab your block, or one of your blocks, and place it between your inner thighs, the skinniest setting. Take your legs into a reverse tabletop position, so knees are over your hips, shins are parallel to the ground, and you're finding that dorsiflexion through the ankle, so toes are flexing back towards your face. Firm your inner thighs into the block. It doesn't need to be overkill, but just enough until the block is stable. And then take your palms to the fronts of your thighs. Take a big breath in. Exhale, gently press your hands to your legs and then your legs to your hands. So start with some light resistance and just notice through that light resistance how you gain that sense of traction in the spine. So you're lengthening your spine and you're gaining some stability in your core. Hip flexors are working. And then maybe you start to add on a little bit more traction. So pressing equally, hands to legs, legs to hands. This traction in the spine is what we are trying to create in our downward facing dog. So we don't need to overkill and push our chest to our thighs. We don't need to sink into our shoulders as we're doing that. We can instead find some stability because our arms are in that flex position and our weight, our whole body weight, or majority of our body weight is gonna be on your shoulders. Take a big breath in and breath out. Good, rest. You can take the block out of your thighs, set it to the side, and rock a little bit from side to side. All right, so now let's challenge ourselves. We're gonna keep one leg in that position that we had a moment ago, but see if we can lower the opposing leg while maintaining that sense of traction in the back. So take your right leg back into that reverse tabletop position. Right hand to your right leg. You can take your left hand to your belly or by your side. Take a deep breath in, left leg goes to the ceiling. Exhale, push your right hand to your leg, leg pushes back towards the hand, so there's resistance. Inhale, lower the left leg forward, pause before you start to notice that your back arches. So we want to try to maintain that stability. Exhale, bring it back up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Take 2 more. So we're basically in that down dog shape on the left-hand side. It's just that our relationship to gravity has changed. Let's try the other side. So left hand to your left thigh, right leg to the ceiling. Take a big breath in. Exhale, push your hand to your leg, leg to your hand. Inhale, right leg lowers. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Let's take that a couple more times. 2 more. Last one. Hug your knees to your chest, rock from side to side. All right, now that we're nice and warmed up, let's make things a bit more challenging. So we're gonna try to add the arms in that flex position, which is what we'll need for down dog. Now the thing is, if you notice, right, when I have my arms overhead, the tendency is to start to arch through the lower back. It's not the worst thing in the world, but we want to try as much as possible to maintain that level of traction through the spine so we're not compensating from our back or our ribs to take those arms in that flex position. So we're really challenging the range in the shoulders. So go ahead and draw your knees towards your chest, lift up, reach your arms forward. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Try to maintain that traction in your spine as you lengthen the legs forward. You can go a step further and extend the wrists so your palms are facing backwards, fingertips to the floor. So you're in downward facing dog, just in a different relationship to gravity. Exhale, lift up, arms go forward. Inhale, arms overhead, lengthen the legs in a V position or a little bit at an angle. Let's do that 2 more times. Exhale, lift up. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, lift up. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hug your knees to your chest, rock from side to side. Good. All right. So we basically did downward facing dog on our backs. So now let's see if we can try it in other ways. So go ahead and rock up and down the length of your spine or roll to one side and press yourself up. All right, let's meet on hands and knees. Let's warm up the wrists. So turn your fingertips to the sides of your mat. Rock a little bit from side to side. Turn your fingertips now towards your knees. If this is a little bit much, walk your knees closer towards your fingertips and circle your body in one direction. Maybe you start with smaller circles and then they can get a little bit bigger. Take those circles in the other direction. Good, go ahead and have a seat. You can shake out the wrists. Last little stretch here. Come to the tops of your hands, fingertips face back towards you, and draw your elbows in towards one another versus allowing them to buckle out to the sides. Press down through your fingertips, and again, you can walk your knees closer towards your fingertips to decrease the amount of pressure. And then circle your body in one direction, small circles. And this is the opposite of extension, flexion in the wrists, which is a really great way to kind of bring balance into all of that wrist extension that we're going to be doing in a moment. All right, so come off of that and just circle your wrists in one direction and then the other. All right, to make sure that we're not putting too much pressure on the heel of the hand and sinking all of your weight into the wrist, press down into your index fingers and your knuckles like you're digging into wet sand. And almost imagine like you're trying to draw your index and thumb together. It doesn't need to be overkill, but just enough until you feel like you're distributing your weight in your hands. Come onto your hands and knees. Let's do a couple cat-cows here just to warm up the spine. So inhale, chest forward, arching through the upper spine. Exhale, round, push the ground away, chin to chest. Take two more. Good, come back to a neutral spine. Sit your butt back and come into a child's pose. This is gonna be an active version though, not passive. So your elbows will be to the ground, palms together, and take your thumbs to the nape of your neck. Slide your elbows out in front of you. And then see if you can keep your head down and maybe you hover the right elbow off the floor. Try your very best not to take that elbow to the side, but instead hug it in towards the side of the face. You're challenging the range of flexion in that right shoulder. Lower the right elbow down. Let's try the other side. Hover the left elbow off the floor. Again, it's a tiny hover, so we're not going for a ton of range. We're just trying to find control. Lower the left elbow down. Option to continue working with that, or hover the right elbow off the ground. Reach the right arm forward like you're shaking someone's hand, but see if you can lift the right hand off the floor versus touching it to the mat. Rebend the elbow, then lower the right elbow to the ground. Let's try the other side. Hover the left elbow off the floor. Maybe you reach the left arm out in front of you, keeping your hand and elbow off the mat. Rebend that elbow and lower back down. Good. Press yourself back up onto your hands and knees. All right, so go ahead and wrap your blanket and set it up underneath your knees. Then come to standing on the knees. We're gonna see if we can challenge our hip flexor group on the right side while trying to balance. So take your arms out wide, lean to the left just enough until you can lift the right foot off the floor and see if you can find balance. Good, and then lower your right foot to the ground. Inhale, reach the arms up. Think about driving the right heel back, left knee forward. If you're not quite feeling that stretch through the hip flexor group on the left side, you can slide the right leg a bit forward, but try to avoid sinking into the pelvis. Instead, kind of resist it. So tailbone guiding down, arms reaching up. Take a big breath in. Exhale, tuck the back toes under, lift off of your left knee, and take your arms by your side. Ground into your right foot, inhale, step to the top of the mat, reach the arms overhead. All right,
So I wanted to really quickly go over foot placement and hand placement in downward facing dog. A common thing people say is hands shoulder width apart and feet hip width distance apart. And sometimes we don't know where our body is in space. And also, hand distance apart isn't always accurate. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So my arms right now are in, kind of a neutral position by my side. And as you can see, when you look at my arms, this is my version of straight, but they look like they're bent, right? So my hands are not shoulder width distance apart. They're actually wider. And if you have a carrying angle, you might have your arms kind of bowed out at the elbow. So if that is the case, take your hands a little bit wider. In order to find feet hips width distance apart, try just kind of hopping up and down. You don't have to hop very high. And then stop. And notice where your feet land. Wherever your feet land, that's gonna be a pretty accurate placement of your feet in down dog. All right, so let's keep that in mind. Feet are about hips width distance apart. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, bend the knees and fold all the way down to the mat. Lift halfway as you inhale, fingertips to your shins. Lengthen through the top of your head. Exhale, bend the knees, plant your hands so that your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Then step your feet back into your plank pose. Pause as you're here. Push the ground away so you're a little bit more lifted out of the shoulders. Then lower the knees to the ground. Go ahead and grab your 2 blocks. So you might want to use the blocks to start, you might not, but we'll have it nearby just in case. So take your blocks straight out in front of you. Maybe just past your fingertips. So if you need to grab them, you can. Let's all start without the blocks first. And then if you're like, oh, I want to challenge myself and use the blocks, they're right there if you need them. So forehead to the mat. And I want you to keep your forehead down the entire time. Turn your palms to face one another, thumbs up. Inhale, lift your arms off the floor. I'm just going to lift my head up a little bit so that you can hear me speaking. Then take your arms out wide like the letter T. Flip your palms up towards the ceiling, thumbs backwards. Bend at the elbows and tap your thumbs and index fingers together, but without touching your lower back. So we're challenging internal rotation in the shoulders. Take the arms out wide, reach the arms overhead, and turn your palms to face one another. Now, if you want to challenge how high you're lifting your hands off the floor, grab your 2 blocks, take them to the sides of your mat, level 1, and let's see if we can keep our hands hovering up the blocks as we transition. Let's do that 2 more times. Forehead down, inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, take the arms out wide, hover your hands over those blocks, rotate palms up, thumbs and pinkies touch, or rather thumbs and index fingers touch behind your back, but not touching your back. 1 more time, inhale, turn the palms to face one another as you reach forward. Exhale, turn your palms up to the ceiling, thumbs and index fingers touch. Inhale, reach out wide, and then relax. Good, hands underneath your shoulders. Push yourself up onto your hands and knees and come back to standing on your knees. If you want to set up that cushion, go ahead and do that now. All right, so let's try the other side. So you're standing on your knees, arms come out wide like the letter T, make fists with your hands. Transfer your weight to your right leg, lift your left leg up. Think about driving your left knee up towards your chest and challenging balance and hip flexion through that left side. Step your left foot through, reach the arms up, inhale. Tailbone down, think left heel back, right knee forward. Exhale, tuck the back toes under. Take your arms by your side as you lift off the right knee. Inhale, stand, feet beside one another, arms overhead, close your eyes. And again, imagine that you're pressing into the floor in your downward facing dog with your hands as wide as you need to take them so that your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Go ahead and extend the wrists so your palms are facing up towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bend the knees, fold halfway. Hold here, inhale. Notice if you're arching your back and collapsing through the lower back. Think about tractioning your spine or extending your spine like a rod that's extending in 2 opposite directions. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift halfway, fingertips to your shins. Lengthen through the top of your head. Exhale, bend the knees, plant your hands, elbows underneath your shoulders, step back into your plank pose. Lower the knees to the ground. If you need to set up your blocks again, go for it. Then lower all the way down to your belly. Good, I'm gonna move this blanket out of the way. All right, so arms go out in front of you. Again, forehead down. If you want, you can keep those blocks at level 1. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, you can bring the blocks higher to level 2. Again, forehead stays down. I'm going to lift my head up so you can hear me speak. But on your inhale, lift your arms off the ground. Forehead stays down. Take your arms out wide, hover them over the blocks. Rotate your shoulders internally. So that means palms up, thumbs and index fingers together. Hover the hands off your back. Inhale, take the arms out wide, palms face one another like you're shaking someone's hands in front of you. Exhale again, clear the blocks. Tap your fingers behind your back. Last one, inhale. Exhale. Good. Inhale, take the arms out wide. Exhale, release, hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself back up. Come back to standing on your knees. Grab your 2 blocks, and it's even better if you have these cork blocks because they're kind of like weights. I think each block is about 2.5 pounds. The foam blocks are going to be much lighter, but nonetheless, we're still teaching the engagements that we need. So go ahead and hold the blocks in your hands, step your right foot out in front of you. So you're in your crescent moon. Think right heel back, left knee forward. Again, if you're not quite feeling that sensation in the front of the left hip, crawl your right foot forward so that you can get some hip extension through that left leg. Hold on to the blocks like you're holding 2 trays, and then circle the blocks right over your shoulders. Inhale, press the blocks up. And as you press the blocks up, notice the tendency for your ribs to kind of flare forward just to get a little bit more range in the shoulders. If we're sinking our chest to our thighs, this is most likely what's going to happen in our down dog. There's no sense of engagement, no sense of support. So instead, press up like you're trying to reach the blocks to the ceiling, and think about drawing the front of your rib cage towards the back of the rib cage. Good, then circle the blocks out in front of you and tap them. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, press up. Exhale, circle the blocks in front. Inhale, press up. Exhale, circle the blocks in front. Good. Lower the blocks down to the ground. You can keep them in front of you. Level 3, you might need them in a moment. Inhale, reach the arms up. Again, just noticing the range of flexion in the arms, trying to press up with the fingertips. Tuck the back toes under, exhale, fly your arms by your side, reach forward through the top of the head. Now, if you'd like that extra support, your blocks are here. You can slide them a little bit in front of you. Fingertips to the blocks, ground into the right foot. Inhale, warrior 3. Exhale, rock your weight back. If you would like, you can take your hands off the blocks and just feel the support from your legs. Inhale, rock forward. Exhale, rock your weight back. Last time, rock forward and rock back. Ground into your right foot, inhale, one-legged Tadasana, arms up. Option to kick your left leg forward, so you're basically in down dog, just with one leg out in front. Exhale, hands to your chest, come to standing. Sit your butt back and down, inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Now ground the weight into the middle of your feet versus sitting all the way back into the heels, and just notice how you're a bit more balanced in your stance. Take a big breath in, exhale, fold, release your fingertips down to the mat. Inhale, lift halfway, fingertips to your shins, lengthen through the top of your head. Exhale, bend the knees, plant your hands, step back into your plank pose. Take a big breath in, exhale, lower the knees to the floor, and come to standing on your knees. Take those 2 blocks in your hands like you're holding 2 trays. All right, step your left foot forward this time. Inhale, circle the blocks over the shoulders and press them up to the ceiling. Exhale, circle the blocks out in front of you and tap them 2 more times. Inhale, press up. Exhale, circle the blocks in front. Inhale, press up. Exhale, circle the blocks in front. Good. Lower the blocks down. Again, you can slide them a little bit in front of you if you're using them for your warrior 3. Arms up, inhale. Tuck the back toes under, exhale, lift off of your right knee. Fingertips back, crown the head forward. Ground into your left foot, inhale, rock to the front. You can always take your fingertips down to those blocks. Exhale, rock your weight back. 2 more times. Inhale, lean forward, activating through the legs. Exhale, rock back. Last time, inhale, lean forward. Exhale, lean back. Good. Inhale, one-legged Tadasana, right knee lifts. Option to stay here, option to kick the right leg out in front. If you're feeling this in your back, you can either opt to bend the right knee a little bit or completely bend it about 90 degrees. Deep breath in. Exhale, hands to your chest as you come to standing. Take an inhale here, sit your butt back and down like you're sitting in a chair pose or Utkatasana. Good, exhale, sit your butt all the way down. And see if you can sit to your butt without using your hands. You have that blanket there for cushioning. All right, so go ahead and grab your strap. You can move your blanket to the side, unless of course you like having that extra cushion under your seat. Unravel your strap. So ideally, if you have the 10-foot strap, it'll probably be able to hold your body and support you a bit more, especially if you're on the taller side. If you have the 8-foot strap and you're about 5'3", maybe under 5'5", you should be okay. Or if you're finding that your strap is a little too short for your body, then I'll give you another option. So option 1, if you don't have a strap that's long enough, you're going to hold onto it with your feet and your hands, and you're gonna think about pushing feet forward, pulling hands back. If you do have a strap that's long enough, you're gonna create a lasso with it. So take it around the soles of your feet and behind your back. And you're going to create a lasso, so you wanna make sure it's nice and secure. So loop it through the bottom of the buckle, especially if you have this type of strap. If you don't, loop it through both of the little buckles and then loop it back over the top. Same idea though, and then you're gonna loop it back over the top on this one and pull it until it's nice and secure. So I have the strap higher on my back. If it starts to slide lower, it's not gonna support you. So make sure that the strap is right at your shoulder blades at the mid-upper back. And I'm just gonna slide the buckle to the left side. So if I need to tighten it, I can. So I like to start with the knees bent. Then you can always lengthen your legs a little bit more as you push into the strap. Take your fingertips beside you, lean backwards, but push your foot or press your feet into the strap at the same exact time. It's the same principle as when you were finding that traction of your spine at the beginning of class. Push your feet forward, lean your spine backwards until you can find balance. So we're basically doing downward facing dog, just flipping the perspective. Reach the arms up towards the ceiling if you want to add a little bit more challenge. Notice if you overextend your back, right? And if you try to press your arch your spine and push your feet forward, it's gonna be a little bit much on your back, right? So try to find that balance where you're tractioning the spine, you're creating that length, and you can still breathe. Good. Then bend your knees and lower your feet to the floor. Remove your strap, set it to the side. All right, so now let's try to put all of that to work and test how down dog feels in our body. Take your hands to the ground. Elbows will be underneath your shoulders. And if you look down, you might find that that means your hands are a little wider than shoulder width distance apart. Maybe not, but again, you're trying to find this in your own body. Then tuck your toes under, push the ground away like you would in a plank pose. Lift your hips up, and then instead of forcing your chest to your thighs and sinking into your shoulders, push the ground away like you did when you were pressing the blocks to the ceiling. And as you push the blocks to the way, notice how you get a little bit more lift out of the shoulders and a little bit more length in your spine. So you're not arching and sinking, but you're pressing and lifting. Then from here, maybe you find that you can slowly start to lower the heels to the floor. If that causes your spine to round and you lean forward, no big deal. You can keep a little bend in the knees. Take a breath in and a breath out. Good. And once you feel this in your body and you're like, okay, this is my down dog today, I own it, this is how it feels in my body, then you can move through your practice and use it as a transition. Use it as whatever you want it to be for yourself, but finding it in your own body is so, so important. All right, lower your knees back down. And let's just try it really quickly with the blocks and see how it feels. Me personally, I like the blocks level 2. It just feels a little easier to hold on to, but you are more than welcome to drop it down to level 1. I wouldn't recommend bringing it to level 3. It's just not very stable. So once you have your block set up, again, come into your tabletop position. Try to stack your elbows underneath your shoulders. Again, that might mean your hands or your blocks are set up a little wider. Tuck your toes under, push the blocks into the floor versus sliding them forward. And you might find you can take the heels to the floor as you lift your hips up, and you're not putting as much pressure on the shoulders and on the wrists. Take a breath in, take a breath out. And again, if you look at the shape of the pose, it's essentially Navasana or boat pose, just flipped upside down. All right, so lower your knees to the floor. Move your blocks to the side. Let's cool down the body. Lie on your back and take one block with you. If you like having support under your head, take a blanket with you as well. Go ahead and lie all the way down. And if you are using a blanket right now, I'd recommend keeping it on the lower setting, and you can always bring it higher in a moment. Grab that block that's beside you, lift your hips up and slide it under the back of your pelvis, the lowest and widest setting. Your feet can stay planted. Make sure that your pelvis is flat on the block so that the edges aren't digging into your back. If you need to slide it up or down, make those adjustments. You can stay here or you can lengthen the legs out in front of you. Maybe you reach the arms overhead in a very passive sense. Just noticing that stretch perhaps in the front of the hips, the front of the belly. Take a couple more cycles of breath here. And then hug your right knee to your chest. Hold around the shin or behind the hamstrings. You can circle the right ankle in one direction. If it feels like it's too much on your back to keep your left leg long, you can plant your foot to the floor. And then circle the ankle in the other direction. Switch sides. Right foot plants down, left knee hugs in. You can stay here or lengthen the right leg out. And then circle the left ankle. Circle it in the other direction. Good. Plant your feet to the mat one at a time. Keep your arms relaxed by your sides. And then draw your knees towards your chest. You can rock a little bit from side to side, maybe just getting a little bit of a massage with the block to your pelvis. And lower your feet down one at a time. Lift your hips up. Move the block out of the way. And lower your pelvis to the floor. Arms relaxed either by your side, or you can take your arms wider in the letter T. And then go ahead and cross your, or rather take your arms wide like the letter T. Heel toe your feet about hips width distance apart and windshield wiper the legs from side to side. Pause as your legs are dropped to the left. You can stay here or hook your left ankle to the top of your right thigh, maybe noticing a stretch down the front of the right leg. If you're not feeling much, you can walk your right knee or crawl your right foot a little bit to the right so your knee points to the front of the room. If that puts too much pressure on your knee, then just go back to where you were, even if that means the stretch isn't as intense. Come back to center and switch to the other side. So drop your legs to the right, right ankle on top, and just notice any sensations that come up. Come back to center. Any other movements that you would like to take, go ahead and find them. Once you're ready, come into your final Shavasana. You can take the legs long, you can plant your feet to the floor like you started, or you can bring the soles of the feet together. So, of course, there are many other endless options, but find what works for you and then close your eyes.
Just like how we started, bring your awareness back to the breath. Yoga and the practices of self-study, studying our habits, studying our patterns. And through noticing those things, we can become more self-aware. And when we become more self-aware, it's a lot easier to simply notice how we relate to everything without needing to attach, avoid, like, or dislike. We can simply just be with everything. We can notice and observe without needing to judge or criticize. That's why it's called a practice. As you're ready, bring your hands to the outsides of your thighs. Close your knees in like a book. Hug your knees to your chest. Rock from side to side. Roll to one side of your body. Then press yourself up. Meet me in a comfortable seat facing forward. Palms together in front of the chest. Breath in and breath out. I thank you for taking this time to connect to your body and your practice and using the pose downward facing dog as a means to do so. Just understanding how you relate to that particular pose and how that idea applies in your body. Bring your thumbs right in between the eyebrows. We bow forward. Namaste. Thanks for joining me. Hope you had fun and had an educational experience on downward facing dog.